Hey there, dear YouTube audience, and welcome to a new episode of GIANTainment Sapphic book reviews. Welcome not only to the 6th overall episode of this little podcast of mine, but also this is the June episode, so happy Pride Month everyone. I don't know if I'm gonna be around this month again with another book, depends on when I'm finished with it, but yeah, this is basically the June episode of Sapphic book reviews, the 6th book overall that I'm gonna be reviewing. And this time it's actually about a author that I have already read a book from at the beginning of this year. Last book that I read was Cover Story by Rachel Lacey. Rachel Lacey, again, you know, also like the second book of hers that I've read. The first one, however, that she basically wrote before like the one that I read initially from her. And this one actually, let me check real quick. That's why I had the author's page up right here on Goodreads. The book that we review today was released on goddamn 6 years ago, 14th of December 2010, and the last book I've read from her was 30th of October 2013, so that was before, like I read the more recent book before this one actually, you know, in that sense. Obviously, I'm talking about the author Robin Alexander, the book that I've read from her that actually I started with this year, if my memory serves me correctly, was Scaredy Cat, and I absolutely loved it. After reading last year, Vengeance Planning for Amateurs by Lee Winter, that was fucking amazing, like the best comedy book I've read so far, you know, with a really good romance arc. Obviously, that's like the main thing with this. But yeah, like the comedy bits were really, really, really good. And then Scaredy Cat, I think, in terms of like comedy, is literally a close second. And that seems to be like a thing, you know? When you look at the cover art for Scaredy Cat, it's absolutely unhinged, absolutely crazy. You don't even know what the fuck this is supposed to be. And apparently, that's Robin Alexander's strong suit, writing books with great comedy bits in it. So after Cover Story, which was a little bit more intense, you know, in terms of like story, a little bit more deeper, I wanted to have something like that is more lighthearted, and was like, you know, I have this book right here. I bought it because, again, the cover is extremely weird, and it's Robin Alexander, so weird cover, check. Robin Alexander, check. So must be a book that is like really easy to digest, and that is just like filled with some good, really good comedy bits, and we'll see if that delivers, because we're talking about Pitifully Ugly by Robin Alexander. Again, first book I read was Scaredy Cat. That was like a more recent one, 2013. Wait, hold up. 2013. Yeah. Hold up. Did I do the math wrong before? I said like 10 years ago, right? Yeah, like obviously Scaredy Cat was like 13 years ago. Pitifully Ugly, 2010. So that's 16 years ago, actually. God damn, we're fucking old. But again, this was like there were 3 years apart between Pitifully Ugly and Scaredy Cat. But before we get into anything, we're gonna read, I think it's called the blurb on Goodreads for Pitifully Ugly, so we get like a rough estimation, and then I'm gonna go into my review, of course. Sorry, trying not to spoiler too much, but yeah. First things first, let's go into the Goodreads bit. What does it say about Pitifully Ugly? Shannon Bryson believes she is the epitome of pitifully ugly. Bars. Kaylin, Shannon's overly social sister, is determined to play matchmaker and find a special someone for her sister. After a disastrous date with one of Kaylin's recent selections, Shannon decides to take her love life back into her own hands by joining the local lesbian cyber matchmaker. Mid-30s, still single, housebroken but rabid. If you're looking for something different, then I'm your girl. Write me if you dare. PU. Maybe it wasn't the best idea to build her profile after consuming half a bottle of her favorite wine, or to use a picture of herself at the age of 6 after she had cut her own hair as her online profile photograph. Hiding behind the online persona of Pitifully Ugly, Shannon finds the courage to meet new women and face the disaster called dating. As her charming personality surfaces, Shannon's search for the perfect match may be closer than she realizes. So just from the blurb alone, you know, it's pretty goddamn good. Like, I just realized that again, like when you read like mid-30s, still single, housebroken but rabid, gives you a good idea of what this book is about. And also, I like that at the beginning, like Shannon as the main character, by the way, the entire book is read from her perspective. That was also the case in Scaredy Cat. Was it? Going through my mind. Actually, it wasn't. No, never mind. That was usually in like Scaredy Cat was mostly from the perspective. Yeah, that was mostly like from the POV of Quinn. But we also got some chapters where it was like about like Blake and what she is doing. But mostly it was Quinn. Actually, I like it. It was like ping-ponging around quite a bit. But yeah, in Pitifully Ugly, actually, we have like only one POV. And that is that of Shannon. And Shannon is just like a fucking great character because her self-deprecating humor is really fucking good. I really like that. At the beginning, when she basically reads out, it's like that, but it's a little bit more in detail in the book. Obviously described like what she put in her profile. And she basically, wait, let me see if I can find that. Maybe I have it on the screen already. Yeah, right here. So after she realizes or, you know, reads out loud what she put in her dating profile, it says right here, "Oh my god, I'm a lapdog with culinary skills. I buried my face in my hands and screamed in frustration. I'd spent my entire Sunday morning trying to come up with something eye-catching, and all I could manage was an ad for a dog looking for a good home." Like, that's the thing, you know, like the entire self-deprecating fucking arc or like personality of Shannon is really, really fucking good. And also like the writing style of Robin Alexander, also right at the beginning of the book. This is like all at the beginning. I just love this part when it says like, you know, she also has a problem with Oreos, like eating too much. And she was like, and then the Oreos began calling to me again. I was about to heed their call. And I want to put one more thing in here because I just love it. Afterwards, I fired up the treadmill and walked until I was afraid that I'd pass out. That concluded my exercise for the day, even if it only lasted 10 minutes. And then, you know, going a little bit through the day, and then at the end of the chapter it goes. And I took a good hard look at the treadmill. That's as far as it went. I wasn't getting on that death trap again until the next day. But it doesn't stop there. You know, obviously the entire book is like the romance arc of Shannon and Haley, but the book only has 234 pages. But what you basically, it's not cramming in it because it's not like, you know, overly condensed. But it's like literally something is happening all the way, and it's not, it doesn't go into the whole, like you get to connect the dots rather quick. Who like the person is that she is talking to on the dating app, but the person that she's talking to that she kind of, you know, was feeling around with, she doesn't want to meet up, because she's like a little bit more like careful, afraid, something like that. So at the beginning, actually, we get like a really fucking disastrous first date that Kaylin set her up with her sister, as it said in the blurb. And then we also get like, she goes on two dates, actually. Three dates. Yeah, right. Three dates prior to, you know, meeting up with that mystery person that isn't quite the mystery person, but it has some sort of that vibe where it's like, you know, secret lover kind of thing on the dating app. However, she goes through 3 different dates. 2 of them actually horrible. 3rd is a little bit more interesting, I would say, because she plays like a little bit of a major role, but she kind of gets like, at least that's what I was thinking. Like she's like a good date, you know, but she isn't really, like Shannon isn't really feeling it because was that actually at the point? No, it wasn't at the... Okay, that was at the point where she didn't realize that Haley was the person that she kind of has a connection to, that she was talking with on the dating app. So, but the thing is, like, every time Shannon is outside, or every time Shannon comes from a date, or every time every time Shannon is around, basically going out of her apartment, she meets up with Haley, who just, you know, what's the word? Took like like she just, not left. She moved in, there you go. She moved in into the apartment complex, basically. I think it was like a week prior or something when the book starts. And every time Shannon is out, every time Shannon comes back from a date, every time, you know, she's like outside, basically, she meets up with Haley. And actually later down the line, you find out why that was. But also, like, the way they just communicate. And also, by the way, Haley always showing up when Shannon is around. It kind of, you know, gives you the idea that, you know, she is actually talking. Like that the person on the dating app is Haley. And that is actually also... They are not stupid, which is good. They actually figure that out really fast. And I thought it was like the whole thing of like, you know, getting to find out that you're actually talking to it. Maybe one person, maybe Haley knows, but maybe should actually know that that Shannon, but actually she has her fucking 6-year-old picture actually when she was 6 years old as her profile picture. So I guess she knew. But Shannon also basically then realizes that it was Haley. So it didn't go to the arc that they don't know. Like, you know, like, I think actually at the point it was like, you know, I have such a great fucking conversation with Haley. That's when the third date happened, you know, and it was like a good date. But she was like, yeah, I can't really commit, you know, because Haley is a thing. And then also the person that I'm talking to on the dating app. So that's like the thing that, you know, where she basically struggles with. And I thought like the entire book would be like, okay, we don't know, we're talking with each other and we're trying to figure it out or something like that. And then it's like a big reveal, even though it's like kind of on the nose. You kind of know, you know, like at the very early on. And so do they, which is pretty good. And I definitely like that one because they're not stupid. They actually, that's also the thing, they fucking communicate, right? And that's obviously like the most important thing. Another character actually that I really love was the hairdresser. Let me see. Marvin is like the side character. Obviously, he's a gay. That's pretty apparent. And also like turns out to be one of Shannon's best friends. Shannon actually has, or like her sister, more like both of them actually. They have like a business of like multiple hair salons. And Kaylin is running the entire operation, I think. And Shannon is basically doing the accounting. Like stuff behind the scenes. And there was a point where Kaylin, I don't know if she went on vacation or something like that, but she basically was like, okay, you know, your dates suck, I'm gonna do it on my own. And she was like, don't go on dating apps. And she obviously, you know, absolutely did that. But yeah, Kaylin went on a trip and then she goes to like, I think that's the weird thing. She didn't go to like one of her own like hair salons, but she actually went to a competition one. And yeah, there was like this guy, Marvin, you know, he fucking amazing, did like the best haircut ever. Like she didn't even recognize herself when she was looking in the mirror. I was like, I'm that pretty goddamn, son. And she also says like, you know, I actually run this hair salon and they're actually really like revered in that part, in the town. Like, you know, everyone is like, oh yeah, if you want to be a hairdresser, you definitely have to work there. So she was like, yeah, you know, if you don't like it here, which she doesn't, then, you know, we would definitely hire you right away without even, you know, consulting with Kaylin. But obviously, you know, she was like, yeah, that there's no way that we don't get this guy on the fucking payroll. And yeah, he ends up being on there. But not only that, there's also a part where her sister is actually pregnant, but there was like this big meeting of like multiple salons and she has to do like a presentation for that. And who is accompanying her? Obviously, it's goddamn Marvin. And that also went pretty much down the shitter almost, because she decided to take like, I don't know exactly what it was, but it was like some pills that basically make her a little bit more relaxed. I don't know exactly what it was called because I don't use that shit, but you know, that's what she used before she actually was about to put on this big speech. And then Marvin realized that, and yeah, you would think she fucking botched it, but she was actually the best talker on the entire night then, which was pretty cool. And that, all of that, you know, I vividly remember that because it was pretty goddamn hilarious how everything happened there. And meanwhile, she has this unresolved thing with Haley, because that's the one thing, and that's a character that always appears in multiple Sapphic books. And I realized that sometimes it's a friend, sometimes it's like literally the fucking family, sister mostly. You had that in Homestead for the Holidays. I remember that vividly, where her fucking friend fucked everything up. You had that... Nah, that wasn't actually in Shifting Gears, not really. But yeah, in Homestead for the Holidays, that was like the most apparent fucking thing, where your fucking friend is fucking... You fucked up everything. You know, you fucked up the last quote-unquote date. I'm still mad that Homestead for the Holidays didn't have like another date where they did it, but going off a tangent. If you want to watch my review about that, actually, that is on the first episode that I ever did from last year, like rating all the books of 2025 or something. I call it that. But yeah, that was also this thing like where oh, I just want the best for you, and she doesn't even fucking visit her. She's clearly miserable. She's laying in bed all day. She's fucking awful, you know, and you just fucked up everything for your friend. So that's fucking awesome. But then I'm supposed to cheer you on when you actually get your fucking ass over there and then, you know, accompany her to her fucking love interest. Then I'm supposed to fucking cheer for you? Nah, bruh. And that's exactly also what happened right here, you know? Shannon, you know, talks about Haley with her sister. And then her sister, because like the thing is like Haley... That's I don't know if that's that might be a spoiler, so I'm gonna pull back a little bit on there. But there's like there's a backstory with Haley that she Kaylin sees as a red flag, and that's when she fucking puts seeds of doubt because I don't want to see you. Like the first thing she says actually is that she likes how Shannon basically is more outgoing. You know, she takes care of herself and shit like that. But then in the same fucking breath, you know, it's like, I don't want to see you get hurt. This might be a bad idea for you. Maybe consider your options. Bruh, you put her on a fucking awful date, and it was pretty obvious that you knew that, you know, you were setting her up with a mental case, so you get a good laugh out of it. So fucking awesome job right there, fucking bitch. But then also, like, saying in the same face, basically, you know, it's because of Haley. That's cool, but actually maybe you shouldn't see her because, you know, Shannon actually tells her what Haley's backstory basically is. And yeah, and just fucking puts seeds of doubt into that. And then, you know, her mother shows up, Shannon, because obviously Kaylin is about to deliver the baby somewhere down the line. And she obviously wants to be there. So Shannon also talks with her mother about that. And there's one scene that I absolutely fucking despise. And it's like, they eat together. You know, like all three of them, and they have a great dynamic. You know, also the Kaylin Shannon thing. Also when Kaylin is like really going through emotional peril. You know, when they go to eat or they eat something, you know, and she basically eats everything on Shannon's plate before Shannon actually realizes what's going on, and then there's one shrimp left, and then she has this mental kind of breakdown, Kaylin, where she's like, do you think they know that they get separated from their own family? And then she basically takes a leaf from the fucking salad and puts it over the shrimp. That was hilarious. I love that one. But yeah, the thing is like, she at that point, you know, like there was a dinner before that, and Shannon clearly like struggles. It has like an inner struggle because of the fucking bullshit Kaylin does. She does that multiple times, putting seeds of doubt in Haley. And that's the thing also in the book where Shannon actually fucking stands up and says like, you don't even know her. You have never fucking met her. How in the fuck do you already make up your mind? That's fucking breaking from frame kind of shit. Love that book. Best book of the year. Just Forrester, by the way. But there were also some characters, but that was like by design, you know, where it was like, yeah, I already made up my mind. She's a bad influence because 1969. But there was this point where they basically all of them eat together, all three of them, and Shannon is just there like picking at her food, basically not even really eating anything. And then her mother and her sister are basically too preoccupied to talk about the fucking incubator that they are trying to paint or some shit. Obviously they care, you know, because later down the line, you know, it's an HEA. Every book that I read has to have, and happily ever after. That's a fucking that has to happen, you know. I don't want to get like emotionally fucking damaged. That's why there's one particular book by Erica Lee, love her, but there's one particular book I'm never gonna be reading because goddamn, not going into that. However, they obviously care, you know, and maybe that's a little bit nitpicky, maybe, but I definitely didn't like that. And then there's also the specific part where her mother, like Shannon's mother, basically tells me about I think I can talk about that. because they kind of the thing is like they kind and I like that Shannon puts that up. There's like a point basically where her mother talks about, or Shannon brings it actually up to her mother, about like her father's past. And I don't care how the book tries to spin it and whatnot. Number one, that fucking husband is a piece of shit, and every time he doesn't really appear too much, and maybe Robin Alexander realized that because she really dropped the ball with that one, but I didn't like that at all. I fucking hated that, actually. I hated that backstory for that fucking piece of shit, and every time he shows up, which is not much after that, I fucking hated it, and I don't like him. However, they try to spin this narrative of what her father basically did back in the day to Haley, when Haley's case is a complete different fucking ball game. And I'm actually glad that Shannon also points that out, because that also would have been something. Like, Kaylin tries to make that point. And actually the thing is, like, the only person that knows about that is Shannon, like, about her father's background. But apparently, you know, they hint at that at the end of the book, that her mother, that Shannon's mother also told Kaylin about that. So, and apparently everyone is cool with that. So, yeah, I don't know. This whole what the father did is basically the same thing that Haley did, is completely fucking arbitrary and doesn't make any fucking sense whatsoever. And that's, sadly, that is what soured the book overall for me a little bit. But the cool thing is actually that when they get together, and there's a lot of communication, there is like some sort of a soft breakup, whatever. But Shannon, or actually like, that's where the support comes in. Her mother and also Kaylin basically tell her, yeah, it's pretty obvious that you have to make the first step, basically. And she did. And you know, the last book of the last couple of chapters, also the chapters are really neatly spaced out. Like, every chapter is like about, I don't know, like 10 minutes or something, or 12 minutes. And that just got me into, oh, you know, so 12 minutes, okay. Obviously, I'm gonna read like multiple chapters before I go to bed, but I was like, okay, another one, you know, it's just like, I don't know, another 8 minutes, whatever, and it's like, oh, another 10 minutes, yeah, sure, cool. You know, pacing is really good. Pacing is really fucking well done in this one. But the thing is, like, later, like, the last half of the book basically is, not half, maybe a quarter, something like that, is basically we get to witness like different dates. Like, they go to the park together, and that's also another similarity that this book has with Scaredy Cat. In Scaredy Cat, you had Blake fighting a chicken, and apparently that is like a main meme or something for Robin Alexander books, because right here we have Shannon actually fighting a goose. And I'm gonna read that out real quick because I like that. Right here. Before I knew what I was doing, I had pulled off my flip-flop and bitch-slapped the goose. I learned at that moment that I had made a declaration of war. That winged devil leapt on me like a cat. I was swinging, the goose was hissing, and wine and fruit went everywhere. If it hadn't been for Fuzzy, which is Haley's dog, I was fairly certain I would have died right there. That was really fucking good. And again, that's probably like a main theme. Like, birds are of the devil, apparently. And that's pretty obvious in fucking Scaredy Cat for Blake, and apparently that's also witnessable, I guess, in Pitifully Ugly right here, at least in terms of like Shannon. Also, you know, with Shannon's humor, she also, like, Haley obviously has this like little cat, I was about to say, little dog called Fuzzy. And not only does she have like internal dialogues with him, like when she meets like Haley in the hallway, and then she looks at Fuzzy, and it's like the dog basically, like, you know, talking with her, like, you know, come on, fucking say something, and then he tilts his head, and it was like, yeah, come on, you know, like basically taunting her like that. Or she has like an inner monologue with her organs. That's also something that happens. Or not, like, you know, with the brain, and then also with the stomach, and then the brain is saying one thing, but her stomach is saying something different, like evacuate and stuff like that. It's really good. Yeah, the only thing that actually pulls this all down a little bit is, you know, I don't know, like, it rubbed me the wrong way when you sit there and you talk, like, her sister and her mother talk about the fucking incubator process. Meanwhile, you have Shannon there being fucking miserable, obviously, and picking at her food. Like, you would think that they would actually notice if they would care. But I mean, later on, you know, they pick up clothes for her and, you know, dress her up for the date that she basically has with Haley. you know, I get it, but still, that kind of sucked. The backstory of the father soured that all a little bit, but overall, I would say it's a comfy read, definitely. You have like a coming out, that's all I'm gonna say, spoiler-wise. You have it is a coming out story. Haley is coming out as lesbian in this book, and Shannon is lesbian from the get-go. So that's also something, actually. That's not something you don't get in every Sapphic book. Sometimes you have a bisexual character and then like a main lesbian one. But right here you have like 100% fucking lesbian characters, both of them, which is nice to see. And overall, you know, humor-wise, I would say, though, still Scaredy Cat is a little bit better. The premise of like a horror author being scared of literally your own shadow is like still the best fucking premise for a comedy book, and she pulls it off so goddamn well. And also doesn't make fun of any mental health thing in the process. So, you know, Robin Alexander, that's a win right there. Pitifully Ugly, a little bit more mainstream, I would say, with the whole dating app kind of thing, but it throws you like a couple of curveballs. Like, you know, you would think the entire book is like, oh, they don't know they're talking with each other, but it's actually resolved really quick. And that's also something that is obviously important, is communication, and we get a lot of that in this book between the two. There are some misunderstandings, obviously, because Shannon doesn't know she's supposed to make the first move, but then she does, and then everything falls into place. The fucking romance arc is really cute. Love how they end up together. The whole dating thing is really cool, like the multiple ones that we actually get to see. Not the disastrous ones at the beginning are fun, but the ones between Shannon and Haley, obviously, they're really cool. We get to know what happens after the spice, basically. That was also pretty sweet to see. Also, like the first Valentine's Day, that is like the what was like the epilogue, I think, after the book. Yeah, I guess that wraps it up in a nice bun. Overall, usually I give every book like 5 out of 5, but that little sour kind of note, I didn't like that. So and yeah, in terms of comedy, Scaredy Cat's still a little bit better than this one, but it's a different kind of funny, because obviously the characters in Scaredy Cat are not like anything in Pitifully Ugly. The self-deprecating humor from Shannon was awesome. Haley was a great love interest, had some really depth to her character as well. The main character, the side characters were awesome. I fucking loved Marvin. That guy was a fucking awesome side character. Really liked that guy. And yeah, like a different kind of comedy, absolutely. But overall, definitely cool stuff. Definitely another great book by Robin Alexander. And there's another one that has like a zany cover, which is just jewelry. So that is something that is on my to-watch list. And I'm not sure about Dear Me. That looked a little bit like Unhinged, but it has humor in it. So yeah, there are like still a couple of books. Obviously, she has been around since like 2010, and she put out apparently 50 distinct works, according to Goodreads, so there's a lot of stuff still to uncover about Robin Alexander. Yeah, with that being said, usually I give books 5 out of 5. Again, the sour note puts it down a little bit to a 4 out of 5. But overall, definitely a comfortable read. If you want to get into Robin Alexander, however, I would still say Scaredy Cat is your best gateway drug if you need something really lighthearted and legit funny. Also, if you want legit funny, Pitifully Ugly also fits that scheme right there. With a little bit more, like the characters in Scaredy Cat, they didn't have that much depth. It was like pretty, like the Blake reveal was a little bit that was actually interesting. Like her love interests before Quinn, but Quinn was a little bit like more expected, you know? It's like nothing out of the ordinary, but but right here, Shannon actually not that much, but like it's mostly like Haley and like about her backstory. That was actually pretty good. Maybe a little bit more depth with these characters as well, and it also makes sense then when with the way they basically interact with one another. With that being said, yeah, 4 out of 5 definitely for Pitifully Ugly by Robin Alexander. Again, overall loved it, with a little bit of like nitpicking then and there, but overall just a comfy read. Next one that I'm reading at the moment, as you know, I'm still, you know, figuring out like which kind of subgenres I like the most, and I haven't read like a Friends to Lover book yet, now that I think about that, but Heated Rivalry is around the corner because I love basketball. I read Cleat Cute, and that was Enemies to Lovers, and that one, Health Court Heat was the second one, I think. Yeah, and that one basically is like also a Friends to Lovers, but a faster Friends to Lovers than it was in Cleat Cute, so got a lot of spice there also. That is on the corner, or around the corner, but at the moment actually I'm reading something that I didn't think I would actually enjoy, but I wanted to see, maybe I was wrong, and that is Fantasy Sapphic, and that is Can't Spell Treason Without T, and so far actually I'm enjoying myself with that book. Has obviously a little bit more pages. Again, Pitifully Ugly was like a quick read because there was 234 pages, quote-unquote, only. And Can't Spell Treason Without T actually has like, yeah, 388 by Rebecca Thorne. So at the moment, actually, you know, really enjoying this one. But that is up for next one. I don't know if that's going to be out like this month or if it's going to be after Pride Month, but the Christopher Street Day that I actually organize here in Germany is actually in July. And sometimes you have like still Christopher Street Days in September, sometimes even in October, but October is actually fucking Halloween, so I'm gonna see if I can actually find an autumn-themed one. If not, I'm gonna ask Reddit, or actually, you can also put it in the comments. If you have something for autumn, like autumn-related, you know, that I can read. There doesn't have to be anything like witches or shit like that. Just like literally something with a good depiction of like the season, because autumn is the best fucking season. And obviously it has to be a Sapphic book, you know. If you have something, you know, definitely drop it down in the comments below. I'm all for that. If not, I'm gonna consult the Reddit. But yeah, that's a little bit like further down the line. But still, you know, I organize a Christopher Street Day in July. So still like I'm bisexual, so fucking Pride all around all year. But you know, still in Pride territory basically in terms of months. But yeah. With that being said, my friends, that was it for my review for Pitifully Ugly by Robin Alexander. 4 out of 5 stars for this one. And yeah, again, as I mentioned, happy Pride to everyone. And yeah, I'll see you in the next episode of GIANTainment Sapphic book reviews.